beautiful beings of light. Welcome to the Crone Zone Conversations with the Ancients. My name is Priscilla, and this is my friend Heather. I'm a crone. I'm a psychic medium, channeler, Akashic Records reader, and pretty much anything to do with spirit navigation, I suppose.
Yeah, and I'm Heather, and one thing she didn't mention is that first and foremost, as far as I am concerned, is we're healers.
That's true. Energetic healers. We've been doing energy healing for years together.
Right. But I read cards. I am a psychic medium. I also astro travel and remote view, which to me is a lot like the same thing because fortunately for me, I'm able to go between dimensions and there's always somebody there I can ask a question of and I get answers. You know, it's like one time when I was under the lake and I said, everybody can see these ruins. I want to see what it looked like when it wasn't in ruins. And all of a sudden that was there. So it's kind of cool.
It's just very cool. Welcome, everyone. Hi, Diane G. Garnett. Nice to see you. Amanda, Akila, Debbie Kane, Beltane. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Heather's going to get to her cards, but before she does that, we have some new subscribers, and I want to tell you that Heather and I were, it was demanded that we start this channel, and we fought it for quite a long time, but we're just two crones sharing our spiritual journey experience. Please take what resonates and leave the rest. We were guided to start this YouTube channel to share our journey and experiences in the hope that would help others on their journey and on their spiritual path. So thanks for being here and being part of our journey. And I hope that we can all learn and grow in love and compassion together. And thank you so much for being here. Please hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't. And I will turn it over to you. Oh, by the way, today is, if you don't know, and I know most of you do, hey, Oil Painter, nice to see you. Lauren Huntsinger, thank you, thank you, thank you, guys. Today's Heather's going to remote view Stonehenge, but before she gets there, she's going to read cards, and we do have I have my basic tourist background to give you on Stonehenge before she starts her remote view. So, but I'll let you go ahead and do your cards.
Okay. Well, the very first one was talking about us. It says union, and that's who we are, all of us together. That's what we're trying to be. And it says sometimes when we're all together, sometimes our manifesting gets in the trouble and into our way. I mean, we're so busy doing manifesting, we forget we need to manifest as a group too. So sometimes it gets in the way of our being a group. But in the meantime, while we're all doing all that, our spirits are using the intuition that we need to go ahead. And I got to tell you, I laughed when this card came up because our poor humans are going through frequency shifts. I mean, yes,
with all the solar activity and all Mother Earth activity.
And I said, just think about your violet flame, because that will help you go ahead and get recentered and recent back to your knowledge and back to your creativity. This says birthing, but it means creation. So, and so knowing who you are, what you are. And the reason why I'm saying know who you are is because I drew for the show, I drew a card from the Megatron deck and came up with New Dawn. You could say with all the stuff and the energy coming from the earth and from the sun and all the things that are happening in the astrology. Yeah, I'd say we have a new dawn. And then it's saying, welcome back. And I think what they're referring to when they're saying welcome back is we are discovering and realizing who we are.
Remembering
us. We're back.
Welcome back to us, our authentic selves. Isn't that nice? Yeah. Akila, are you okay? She said she was sitting and felt dizzy twice. I don't know what that would be. Maybe it was just the earthquakes.
Put light starting from you and blast out that stuff that's making you dizzy. Blast it out.
Okay.
With your love.
There's
Okay.
a lot of darkness attacking, especially us light workers. And
Mhm.
really, all you have to do is feel that unconditional love, do that heart, connect your heart and your brain together and feel that unconditional love, and then just blast it out like a love bomb and see if that doesn't help any kind of vertigo that you might be having. I'm glad you're fine now, honey. Good, good,
Yeah.
good. So, for you that don't know, I'm going to add this to the stage. Remote view by Heather. Heather and I both visited Stonehenge in 2017, so we're actually pretty familiar with the place.
Yeah, we went.
We're pretty familiar with it. It's located in Wiltshire, England, in the parish of Amesbury. It's situated on Salisbury Plain, a chalk downland about 8 miles north of Salisbury. So that's where it is. Um, the first, let's see. Oh, I forgot to go through this. Our previous show was Valerie, the full moon in Leo, which is happening tomorrow. So please go. If you haven't seen that show, you might want to go check it out because there's so much going on astrologically. You don't want to miss it. And, Valerie explains it really well. So that was on Saturday. Please go check that out if you haven't. Okay. So the first monument at Stonehenge was a circular earthwork enclosure, which is this first circle on the left. That was the original site, and that was built in about 3000 BC, they think, so far. A ditch was dug with simple antler tools and the chalk piled up to make an inner and outer bank. Now, the Salisbury Plain also has very close, if you've ever seen the chalk horse in Britain, it's very close to Stonehenge. And there's a lot of white chalk. And so they use that for the ditch. Within the ditch was a ring of 56 timber or stone posts. The monument was used as a cremation cemetery for several hundred years. In about 2500 BC, the site was transformed by the construction of the central stone settings. Enormous sarsen stones and smaller blue stones were raised to form a unique monument. There are two types of stone at Stonehenge: the larger sarsen stones, the big connected ones, and then the smaller blue stones. The sarsen stones are a type of silcrete rock, I have no idea what that is, which is found scattered naturally across southern England. Over to you, Heather.
Hmm?
Over to you.
Over with you. Okay. Well, it was built with the help of alien
Whoa,
technology.
whoa, 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 whoa. Are you
What?
reading the rundown?
Oh, no, I didn't even see the rundown. I'm sorry. You go ahead while I
I'll go
find it.
ahead. Recent research shows these stones were brought from the area known as Westwoods, southwest of Marlborough, which is 20 miles away. On average, sarsens weigh 25 tons, with the largest stone, the heel stone, weighing about 30 tons. I think the heel stone is this outside one, the one that's outside the ring in the top right-hand corner. Bluestone, wait a minute, slide 3. Bluestone is the term used to refer to the smaller stones at Stonehenge. These are very geology, but all come from the Preseli Hills in southwest Wales. Although they may not appear blue, they do have a bluish tinge when freshly broken or when wet, and they weigh between, 2 and 5 tons each. It's possible that the features such as the heel stone and the low mound known as the North Barrow were early components of Stonehenge. I'm going to go back to, let's see. But the earliest known major event was the construction of a circular ditch with an inner and outer bank built around 3000 BC. Again, that's this outer one at the top left corner. This enclosed area, about 100 meters in diameter, and had 2 entrances. It was an early form of a henge monument. Within the bank and ditch were possibly some timber structures, and set just inside the bank were 56 pits. You can see these Aubrey holes, known as the Aubrey holes. Within and around the Aubrey holes and also in the ditch, people buried cremations. About 64 cremations have been found, and perhaps as many as 150 individuals were originally buried at Stonehenge, making it the largest late Neolithic cemetery in the British Isles. In about 2500 BC, the stones were set up in the center of the monument. Two types of stone, the larger sarsens and the smaller blue stones. The sarsens were erected in two concentric arrangements, an inner horseshoe and an outer circle, and this is how they managed to put them together.
And keep them together.
And keep them together.
Yeah.
The sarsens were erected in two concentric arrangements, an inner circle, inner horseshoe, and an outer circle. And the blue stones were set up between them in an arc. Let me see, does that go back to? Okay, you can see that in the center of this drawing. The earthwork, okay. Probably at the same time that the stones were being set up in the center of the monument, the sarsens close to the entrance were raised together with the four station stones on the periphery. And the four stations you can see in the bottom where it says station stone and north barrel, two on that side and two on the other side. Okay, Heather, go for it.
Okay.
Number 8.
Number 8. Okay. Got 9. You just went through that. Okay, about 2. Is that the right one?
Yes.
Okay, about 200 to 300 years later, the central blue stones were rearranged to form a circle and an inner oval, which was again later altered to form a horseshoe. And that's down in the bottom. The earthwork avenue was also built at this time, connecting Stonehenge to the river Avon. And one of the last prehistoric activities at Stonehenge was the digging around the stone settings of 2 rings of concentric pits. So, yeah, okay. So the so-called Y and Z holes, which you can see in the bottom picture, they're radiocarbon dated by antlers within them to be within 1800 to 1500 BC. And in the early Bronze Age, one of the greatest concentrations of round barrows in Britain was built in the area around Stonehenge. We're still talking all about everything except the middle. And such as those on King Barrow Ridge and the particularly rich burials at the Normandy Downs Cemetery. They had all sorts of different cemeteries in those circles.
This is what barrows look like in England. They had different types, the disc barrows, which is what they look like in Stonehenge, and then the bell barrows and bull barrows, palm barrows. I didn't realize what they were, that they were just burial sites. Okay. Okay. 4 of the sarsens at Stonehenge were adorned with hundreds of carvings depicting axe heads and a few daggers. They appear to be bronze axes of the Ayrton Down type, dating from about 1750 to 1500 BC. Perhaps these axes were a symbol of power or status within early Bronze Age society, or were related in some way to nearby round barrow burials. In the Iron Age, probably after 700 BC, a major hill fort, later known as Vespasian's Camp, was constructed 1¼ miles east of Stonehenge, overlooking the river Avon. Stonehenge appears to have been frequently visited in the Roman period from AD 43, since many Roman objects have been found there. Recent excavations raise the possibility that it was a place of ritual importance to Romano-British people. The small town of Amesbury is likely to have been established around the 6th century AD at a crossing point over the Avon.
Right. A decapitated man, possibly a criminal, was buried at Stonehenge in the Saxon period. And from this time on, Sheep husbandry dominated the open downland around Stonehenge. The earliest surviving written reference to Stonehenge dates from the medieval period and from the 14th century onwards. There are increasing references to Stonehenge and drawings and paintings of it. And like mid 14th century manuscript illustrations show, the wizard Merlin building Stonehenge. That's what they say he did. And this idea, explained by Geoffrey of Monmouth in his History of the Kings of Britain in 1136, was widely accepted until as late as the 16th century. And then you have the planetary alignments with it. The sarsen stones put up in at the center of the site of about 2500 BC were carefully placed to line up with the movements of the sun. Now, this is we generally all know this, and it's you.
If you were to stand in the middle of the stone circle on Midsummer's Day, you would see the sunrise just to the left of the heel stone, an outlying stone northeast of the circle. And I believe you can see the heel stone in the bottom right-hand corner of this drawing. Archaeologists have found a large stone hole to the left of the heel stone, which may have held a partner stone. If so, the two stones would have framed the sunrise. On Midwinter's Day, the sun would have originally set between the two uprights of the tallest trilithon, two upright stones capped by a horizontal lintel. It would have dropped down over the altar stone, a sandstone block which was placed across the solstice axis. Now, the altar, they just found those in 2024, they found that the altar stone was actually from Scotland. Go figure that one. I'm sure you'll let us know how, Heather. Today, this effect has been lost because half of the trilithon has fallen. But a laser survey of Stonehenge has shown that the stones that frame the solstice axis were the most carefully shaped, with vertical sides that frame the movement of the sun.
Now, the whole layout of Stonehenge is therefore designed in relation to solstices, which are the extreme limits of the sun movement. The solstice axis is also marked by the station stones, which are placed at the corners of the rectangle around the edge of the surrounding circular ditch. The short sides of the rectangle are parallel to the main alignment of Stonehenge. The late Neolithic monument known as the Avenue, made up of parallel banks of ditches, links Stonehenge to the nearby River Avon. And it is also linked to the movements of the sun. Its final straight stretch close to Stonehenge is aligned on the northeast to the southwest solar axis.
Marking the movements of the sun was clearly important to the people who built Stonehenge, as they went to such great lengths to align the monument with them. But we have few clues as to what they did here. The people who built Stonehenge were farmers, herders, and pastoralists. The changing seasons would have been of immense significance to them, both practically. The seasons dictated what could grow and when, and also probably spiritually. So Stonehenge is likely to have been much more than a calendar. Midsummer and midwinter may have been important times of the year to remember the dead or to worship a solar deity. But no one knows till our Heather lets us know. But I want to show you a couple of more slides, because this is actually what Stonehenge looks like now. And you can see these outer circles right here in the center, but also outside where the grass is sort of green and not, those are also another outside circle. And the lines that go up towards the top left-hand corner, those are the entry lines. Interesting, huh?
Right. And one thing you can't see there is all the lines they have. You're not allowed to go in there. You can't get close enough to touch them.
You can see here, Heather, where the walkway is. That's as close as you can get. The first time I went to Stonehenge, you could go up and touch the stones. Since then, they've created this massive visitor center and these buses that take you up the avenue and to where they drop you off. And then you have this one little walkway that you can walk through to see it. I think that really sucks.
But speaking
It
from
was so
experience,
interesting.
you don't really want to get any closer to them simply because they have so much energy.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I didn't
I did
I
not want
didn't
to get
think
any
that was a problem when I was there.
yeah, I didn't want to get any closer.
But I love Stonehenge, and I felt like I was floating the whole time I was there. I got giggly. I feel giggly and bubbly and like I'm floating, and I didn't want to leave. Nobody owns Stonehenge. It's a national heritage site, an English national heritage site, which is where I got all this information.
Mm.
Yes, you can touch the stones at Avebury. That's true.
Right.
Okay,
And in
so
Drombeg.
and what?
Drombeg.
And Drombeg Circle, which are two other stone circles that I've been to.
Yeah.
Heather and I went to the one Drombeg Circle in
Our,
fact, here is let me see if I can show share screen. Okay, this is another henge in England. It's called Avebury. Look how huge it is. Look how many stones, and there's houses and stuff right in the middle of it. But that thing's enormous. You can tell by the size of the the cars and the houses and stuff there. And that's in Wiltshire. And then another one that, let me see, how do I do that? The other stone circle we wanted to show you that we've been to is in Ireland. Okay. Nope, I want to remove that. Present. Show. Okay. Present. Share screen. Okay.
Yep.
You wouldn't believe the story behind Heather and I finding.
I'll tell you about it if there's time.
It was hilarious us trying to find this, but Garrett wanted us there, and we made it there.
And then what happened afterwards was magical. So
it really was. So that is, I'm going to stop share, stop screen.
Okay. Now,
and here, wait a minute, Garnet showing it, talking about other circles out there. There's so many across the planet. It is unbelievable.
Yeah. So if we talk about Stonehenge, you're talking about a lot of them. It's just that's one of the best known ones, and it's got hundreds of visitors, thousands of visitors. Anyway, it was built with the help of alien technology, and I said, "What kind?" They say Anunnaki. It's older than the pyramids. Okay, so why did they build it? To center the energy for the portal that's there.
I love that.
Okay. It's not made for sacrifices, but it is made for the solstices celebrations there. Okay. The energy is still there, but the portal is locked, not being allowed to be opened at present by humans anyway. But the energy can still be felt there. And you can feel it better if you can touch the stones. But humans aren't allowed to go there anymore. You can't touch them. It's kind of like when we went to Greece, you're not allowed to touch the pillars. But if you put your hands near it, you can feel the energy in them.
True.
Okay? So the closer you get to it, the more you feel. And for me, she was telling you how she floated the whole time. For me, that was too much energy for me. So that's why I didn't want to get any closer. Okay. My only reaction is I didn't want, and I was more than ready to leave. I needed to get out of that energy. It was just way too strong.
I loved it. I bathed in it. It was fantastic for me.
It was different. And there are some people who don't feel the energy at all, and they just want to go up. And of course, they do allow you to get a lot closer when they're celebrating the solstices there.
Yeah, if you're a druid, you can definitely get in there during the solstice.
And the stones are aligned to maximize the energy. and it's dimensional. There are beings, visitors come and go through that portal, but they are ethereal, so humans don't see them. And it's still being used by them, but not as much.
By them, as in the
Then those who travel, the ethereal beings.
do we know who the ethereal beings are?
Oh, everybody. It's a major portal.
A
So
major travel portal. Okay.
yeah, but it is restricted to those who have unconditional love and the best interest of earthlings in their things.
Before you go any further, can we go back to how it was built?
That's what
You're
I'm
gonna
going to
getting there. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I was going to say humans can come in there and I was going to say, even though the Stonehenge itself is broken, it still has the energy. Now, if you wanted it to go back to optimum energy, it would need to be rebuilt.
Right.
But the alien technology, I got a kick out of this. They allowed the stones to be moved from the quarries, and they were not needing to be precise, which is why those stones are not precise. They're just cutting so large, and then they were going to be placed upright. So they actually followed the way the stone was going. So when they cut the stone just kind of broke off how it normally would have broken off. That's why it's not smooth. Okay. But it was like, I'm going, you're kidding me. The stone would fall to the ground. Somehow or other, they would do something to it. It would float off the ground. All you have to do is touch it.
They
Just
use
touch it.
levitation.
Yeah. But they
that's how the pyramids were built, the same way, with the levitating the stones.
Exactly. And all they had to do is push it and walk it to where they wanted to go.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was really, and they didn't have to go over water. I mean, they did have to cross a river once, but even, I mean, from that map you saw, I didn't see them going around. They just simply walked the stones to where they wanted to go with it. Like 4 people per stone, one on each side.
That's crazy.
So you go anywhere. You just pushed it. I'm going, that's crazy. I thought that was the craziest thing I'd ever heard. I'm going, okay.
I think that's great.
Mm-hmm. So they just followed the pattern that they wanted to, of the stone itself. It didn't need to be precisionally cut. It just needed to be able to stand up. And again, they used their technology to stand them up and get them where they needed to be.
And you said they're older than the pyramids. Do we know how old? Did they tell you how old they are?
No, they just said that it has been there longer than the pyramids have been.
Okay. Did you have a particular guide this time?
Yeah, his name was Tom.
Hello,
at least they picked easy names for me to be able to say, I know that's not really his name, but that's the name they gave me. So,
that's great.
And they said that when we went, there were some areas towards the back, and you talked about them being the alleyway type thing, but there were some rock formations there, and what I was told was those rock formations, some of them were used as like kitchens, because there were so many people coming to the solstice services. They had to have some place where there was something that they could make the hot water or do whatever they wanted to make, but they were like kitchens for everybody.
Was the kitchen within the circle or outside the circle?
Oh, outside the circle.
Okay, that's what I thought.
In fact, even it was before the chalk circle, but right next to it.
Because they talk about when I was researching, they talk about the pottery and stuff they found of a certain for a particular age that was there. I think it was Bronze Age, some tools and pottery and stuff, but nothing was ever found inside the circle. It was always spotlessly clean. But
Exactly.
outside they found other artifacts.
That's
Okay.
true.
Do we have a species for Tom?
He's Anunnaki.
And White Dragon, you may not diss the Anunnaki because I was one too.
They said that the peasants or humans, at that time they were called peasants, they stayed outside the circle. They were not allowed inside the circle.
Even for the solstice celebrations, they weren't allowed
not unless they were priests,
the Druid
or
priests,
ascending people, but as the regular people, they were outside of it. And the way that it's built, there's just enough room for them to come between the rocks, and they were stationed in that area. So basically those people outside really couldn't see what was going on.
Right.
And if you think about it, okay, even they didn't know what was going on, because what was going on was inside the second circle. So the people outside, even if they could see in, really couldn't see what was happening in the second circle. So
that's Beaker people, Garnet.
Say that again.
I was telling Garnet that they're called Beaker people, the people that were alive then. Those Beaker people, those were the ones that created the mounds and stuff like that. It was just a period of time.
And I was going to say, not all Anunnaki are bad. They're not all that way.
Dragon says, but you're nice. Yeah, Beaker people, it's their pottery. It was a time of...
And so, of course, they couldn't see very much what was going on. They could hear some of what was going on with those great big rocks. It's kind of hard to do it. So there were lots of stories about what was going on, and everybody tried to get really close. But again, they weren't allowed in.
So only aliens or interdimensionals were allowed within the inner circle, and then the outer circle, you could have maybe
priests,
Druid priests or whatever.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
so these were people who were not, the people on the inside would not have been upset with seeing aliens. So
okay, interesting.
Let's see.
I did not have aliens on my bingo card, I have to admit.
Most of the inner circle talked to the visiting aliens. There were directions, ideas to help, plans for the farming type things. Wow. They planned what they would send out to the masses to help them out.
That's beautiful.
It was someplace they didn't know about, but they had visitors in there, and they had conferences, things like that.
Oh my God, it was a conference center. Who knew, with the restaurant and everything else?
But in order to get into the first ring, and if you were really enlightened, you might get into the second. But for the first ring, you needed to be enlightened and ascending. So,
and you had ascending people back in that day in Britain, but we don't know how far back it was.
We don't. It was just way, way back. But if they were, it's kind of like when I went to one of the other cities, and the rulers were up above, and they had people come down, but they had been trained in certain schools to come down and work with the people. And this is kind of like the same thing.
Okay, that's very
cool. They got
cool.
their instructions and went out and helped everybody. Humans came because of all the energy and the worship of the solstices, and so they could have better crops and offer thanks for the crops that they did have, so it was used for rituals. More and more people came, even now. I mean, look at how many people go now.
Oh, all the time.
It just kept growing and growing, and it was actually a very good place for ceremonies, even today. That's why they still do their solstice ceremonies there.
Yeah, they still allow the Druids to do it.
It's not associated with the King Arthur's court. Of course, he's been there so much longer.
And
Though
how disappointing that it wasn't Merlin that built it.
it was there long before him.
Oh, yeah. I thought that was an interesting theory, though.
Yeah, it was because Merlin was so powerful. So, and they were both, and a lot of people think they go together. They were both very important, but they had different purposes.
Who? What had different? What goes together?
King Arthur's court and Stonehenge. They were there for different reasons.
Okay.
So they didn't actually intertwine.
Okay.
It just came.
I never heard they did.
Huh?
I never heard that they did intertwine.
Oh, well, I was just because I asked about that. And I said,
Okay.
no.
Interesting.
It's simply for the portal, energy, and rituals.
Wow.
And even for, especially for the solstices, that's why it's lined up the way it is. Let's see. Aliens know why it's so protected and limited, but feel we would benefit more if we were allowed to go into the hub of the energy of the ruins. So they don't necessarily agree with it. You can't go close. They think they could get to more people and the energy could be transmitted so much more.
They're just worried about people damaging it.
I know, yeah. But it is a sacred place as far as the energy for good. And unfortunately, and the reason why they're afraid people will damage it is because it has been damaged by people.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
So they are being careful. Right now, even though it was built before the pyramids, it is connected to the pyramids energetically. Or it was at one time. It isn't anymore. Both have been decommissioned for that.
Right.
It's actually a reminder to people for faith and love.
Oh, that's lovely.
So that's part of the reason it's still there, hasn't crumbled down. And when you think about it, everybody that goes there, nobody I saw there was of the kind of nature that you didn't want to be around them.
Yeah.
And they were all really, really good. And I got to say that the more that I thought about Stonehenge, now we're going to talk a little bit about Drombeg, but then we'll go back for any questions that there are. We also went to Drombeg Circle, and that's in County Cork, Ireland. And I looked it up, and it said it's, according to folklore, it's the burial place of a young chieftain. I do remember when we went there, there was a group of stones, and the circle.
Wait a minute. Let me show it so they can see what it looked like again.
Yeah. Well, it shows us the circle in this picture, okay? But on the back side of it, there were two areas, again, kitchens. We thought maybe two huts had been there, say. And there was actually one stone that was standing off to us.
These are the conjoined huts.
That's right.
So they would have been like the kitchens? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, they were used like the kitchens. Did you see they're not right up to the circle?
Yeah, there's the circle there.
And there was, I remember seeing, now it was dusk when we went there. I remember seeing a stone that looked out of place because it wasn't with anything, and I couldn't figure out what that was. That could be where they buried the chieftain. I don't know. I'm getting that it is, but it's associated with tales of druids and fairies and otherworld beings. And it's also said that the veil feels very thin between the worlds there. And it is, again, used for ceremonies. And we actually kind of participated in one. But it's a portal that's used mostly by elementals. I asked, because when we were both there, I knew she really resonated with Stonehenge, and I did. I resonated with Drombeg. And I couldn't figure out. I said, why did I resonate with this one and not the other one? And they said, it's because it's the fairy and elemental energy. And that resonated with me so much more.
Well, it makes sense. The Anunnaki energy, I resonated with Stonehenge because of my Anunnaki background.
That could be it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, it's for both of us. If we could only.
But I love Drombeg Circle too. I thought it felt fantastic. I love Drombeg Circle as well. But I didn't get the same reaction that I got at Stonehenge by far.
I know if I had only the two to go to, I would go back to Drombeg. I think you'd go back to Stonehenge.
Probably. Yeah, I can't wait to go back to Stonehenge. I like Stonehenge a lot. I just hate all the people. And the part about Drombeg, you and I were the only people there.
That's right. It was dusk and it was magical.
We were lost for an hour and a half.
How we got there. Now, just remember, we started out in Northern Ireland, and by the end of the day, we were in Southern Ireland. But I'll let her tell you how we got there.
The GPS had us going in circles. Literally had us going in circles. And I said, fuck this. I turned off the GPS. I ran off the road, literally. I was going down this little lane and I went to back up and we heard this crunch and I thought, oh shit. Crunched this rental car and I back out and I turn off the GPS because I'm tired of going in circles. And I literally come back out of this place, drive maybe 50 yards, take a right.
You kind of made a comment before when we got turned around. You made the comment, okay, you guys tell me how to get there. And you just kind of followed whatever you felt was the right way to be there.
It wasn't 30 seconds later, we were there.
Exactly.
This time it was dusk. And we had to walk down this muddy path because it's on somebody's farm. And we walked down this muddy path and I think we ran into two people that were leaving and that was it. And the rest of the time it was just the two of us. And we stood on a stone, held hands and did a little meditation and prayer before we left. But
and when we first went in, I got the message. It says, if you're going to look around, do it now, because when you guys are done in the circle, you got to go.
Oh yeah, that's right. I've forgotten about that.
So we looked around and we're finding all these different things first. And then when we were ready, then we went ahead and did what we were told to do and left.
Yeah, left as we were told. But that whole trip we were doing what Spirit sent us to do.
It was really
anyway, let's go. Are you ready to take some questions?
Sure, I am ready to take
comments.
But there are circles all over the place, and I'm sure that they all have energy running through them. So
I'm sure that's true, considering Okay, Diane G says, what kind of portal is there? A communication or travel portal? I think you answered that. It's a travel portal.
Mm-hmm. And it could be both, because when they came in, they all discussed stuff.
I love that it's a conference center.
Exactly.
Exactly. Interdimensional conference center.
Right.
I love it. So Leah asked, may I ask, did you see any, I'm going to put these up, sorry. Did you see any beings like fays or ETs?
I didn't see any. Well, first of all, when we went to Stonehenge, it was so busy. I tried to just quiet everything down and listen, and had a very, very, very difficult time.
There were so many tourists. It was unbelievable. Plus, we were on a tour ourselves.
Right, with friends. So,
And a bunch of people we didn't know as well. We took a tour bus over there. And it's they have a huge visitor center now that is just kind of nauseating to me. I hated to see it so built up in public. And
the only thing I really liked about the visitor center is I got these two little models. This is what it looks like today, and this is the way it looked when it was built. So I got those.
Yeah, I remember those. Okay, here's another question.
I was going to say, at the Drombeg Circle, I don't think I was aware at the time, but when I look back, I can see fairies. They were in the dusk with us, but when I wasn't aware at that time.
We weren't awake in 2017 when we went.
Hmm?
We were not awake in 2017
That's
like
true.
we are today if we went back today. 2017.
So going back today to see what we were doing back then, yeah, they were there. They were with us.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Okay, next. This is White Dragon's ugly comment about the Anunnaki. I'm a good Anunnaki. So I've been told anyway.
Remember that everybody grows over time. Remember when it was built. Maybe they weren't trying to take over everything at the time. Who knows?
Who knows? Okay, what constellation is it set to? I'm only teasing you, White Dragon. The Anunnaki are bastards. There is no doubt about it. But apparently my brother and I were pretty good.
What constellation is it set to? That I don't know. I didn't ask. Let me see if I can find out. It's set to align with the sun and the moon.
There you go.
Not necessarily a constellation.
Okay. Do the stones have consciousness? All stones have consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Does it have more consciousness than other stones because of the energy that's been there all this time? They must.
I don't know about yeah, they definitely have so much more energy. And that's part of the reason they're still standing and they're still as big as they are. They've hardly eroded at all.
I wonder why. Interesting. Okay. And you said Tom was an Anunnaki. That's funny. White Dragon says, I kept picking up food drive through the thing. I thought I was crazy. Apparently you're not. There were kitchens there, which makes sense for the crockery and stuff that they found.
Yeah. He said, why were the portals closed? It's way down. It's not highlighted.
Okay, wait a minute. Okay, it's not highlighted. Where?
So long as, if you highlight it, then we'll get to it eventually.
Okay. Okay, just a minute. Is there anything else I didn't highlight? Okay, let me go back. Stars, okay. Can I ask what the Druids gleaned from this special place?
One was the energy, and remember they were all together too, and so it was.
It was a learning center, wasn't it? Of some sort.
Right. And they were learning what to do for the next year. If they had a bad crop, then they were learning what to help with, so the next year should be better. Remember, they were there for the solstices, which are the beginning and the end, you know. So these are places for them to talk and communicate and get together. What else did they glean from it? Let's see.
So they gave them information about the seasons and how to do their crop.
Community consciousness.
Yeah. Consciousness makes sense too, doesn't it?
A lot of community consciousness for them there.
Smells or sounds there. When you went there yourself, did you time travel back and see anything?
I hadn't even thought about it at that time. But at one time there were farm animals, because they would even bring what they needed. I mean, they weren't going to starve, and most of them really had to trek to get there, which meant that they had supplies with them.
So they brought their supplies with them.
Yeah.
Do the sacred sites line up in a network? Probably along the ley lines, yes.
Yeah, they do. And in fact, there are a lot of lines that go through there.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure there are. I have that ley line book from that British guy, Roy Duff. I can't remember what it looked like though at Stonehenge. And then the last question I found
Oh, there's
was
more now. There's more
okay,
now.
why was the portal closed?
Actually, the portal wasn't closed, but all, I mean, they said it was closed to humans. In other words, you had humans in the outside. They may have been aware that it was there, and maybe the priest could open it, but there's no human that can open it now. It's still used on occasion, but when it's used, the beings coming through are ethereal, and they're just
Light
coming in
bodies.
to check things. They're not coming in to communicate the way they did. So that kind of a thing no longer exists until it can someday again.
Once we're enlightened.
We're not ready.
Yeah, of course.
But they do come in and out to check.
What color light did you sense? Blue ray, pink ray, or anything related to color?
I sense now. I didn't sense then, but I sense now. There's a lot of blue simply for the peace,
Cool.
because they weren't those people that came, and that's not necessarily Anunnaki that came in through that portal. That portal was open to many different people, many different aliens, and they were all there to help.
Early man.
Mm-hmm.
To help early man. Very early man. Interesting. That had to be before the time of the Druids, though, when it was built.
It was Druid, though. It was Druid.
Did the Druids come later? Because the Druids weren't before the
No,
pyramid.
they weren't before. They came in and came there, whereas the Drombeg circle was Druid.
Okay. Interesting. I think that's all.
Was there any message that the land spoke to you? It didn't speak to me at, like I said, we weren't nearly as enlightened as we are now, but it didn't speak to me when we were at Stonehenge. But Drombeg, Drombeg, it's a G, not a K at the end of it, and it's hard for me to. Drombeg, it was like I was constantly getting messages and downloads, and anywhere I went, there was more energy coming into me, but I didn't realize what it was at the time.
At the time. Don't you want to go back now that you
Yes, I want to go back.
now that you know how to interpret those feelings in the
I want to go back there and sit in the field all day long.
I would also go back to that little church that we found there.
Yes, and that little
That
church.
abandoned church was pretty.
She handed me a map and said, "Where should we go?" And I said, "There, there."
That's the only way to travel. Where should we go? Boom, boom. That was fun. We had no idea where we
I had
were
no
going.
idea where we were going. I'm being told you need to go here.
And anything else you want to tell us about Stonehenge? We're about out of time. By the way, please like and subscribe and share with your friends if you thought this was interesting. We'd really appreciate it.
I really think if you have not had a chance to experience the energy of either of those places,
Or
then-
any other circle for that matter.
yeah, if
They're all
if you have a chance, go. Just sit there or stand there and absorb.
One year I went to Stonehenge. I then went to Avebury. My cousin was, it's when I lived in England. My husband was always taking me to some site I had not wanted to see. And my cousin was there. So we went to Stonehenge. That was my second trip to Stonehenge. With you was my third or fourth, because I think I went with Cindy and Sue too.
Yeah,
but then we went
your
to,
daughter.
yeah, and my daughter. I guess I've been there 4 or 5 times now. I've just forgotten. But we went to Stonehenge, then Avery, which is fairly close, and then to one in the Lake District and another one in Scotland. So literally in the UK, there are so many stone circles to you can see.
And
It's
and
just
it doesn't
incredible.
matter if it started out being a cemetery. They're still sacred. There's still
Yeah,
energy there. There's still something to feel and to learn from each one.
there really is.
Mhm.
Heather, thank you for that. That was fascinating information. Like I said, I really didn't think of and why I didn't think of the aliens doing it, I don't know, because I've thought of them doing other things, but I never that was
That
not on
was
my
that
card.
was one of the very first set of things because Stonehenge has been there for a long,
Really long time.
long time.
That's fascinating. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
Everybody in the chat, thanks for your questions and comments. It's always so interesting to see what you guys have to say. Saturday, we have a really special guest that's never been on our show before, and he is a toot. I'm so excited. I can't wait. Gerald from Tarot Stash is going to be here. God knows what we'll talk about, but I'm sure it's going to be fun. So please join us Saturday night at 8 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Mountain, 5 o'clock Pacific. Yeah, Diane G, I'm sure that's true. Anyway, thank you guys for being here. Please go out. Oh, 2 things. First of all, no buy Mondays. Don't buy anything on Mondays that is online. No buy Mondays. Wear your red lipsticks, ladies. If you don't know the story, the women in the resistance in France during World War II wore red lipstick because Hitler hated it. So guess what? Tangerine probably hates it too. Also, Elizabeth Arden created a very special red lipsticks for the ladies in the suffragette movement. And I do believe that's pretty much where we are again today, ladies. So I got mine $3 at the dollar store.
And I just ordered some from Merle Norman. They had a set on sale. That particular red
I love
was
it.
on sale with a brush and then just I was
So get your
like,
resistance
okay.
movement started with your red lipstick. If you can't do anything else, shine your love light because that is what transmutes the dark. So we love you all. Thank you again for being here, and hopefully we'll see you Saturday with Gerald. Thanks again. Until next time.
Bye bye.
Bye bye, all.